Hello, hello. Welcome back to Express Yourself, RVA. I'm your host, John Cope, and I am here joined with two awesome individuals who we just had a fantastic chat about the new Met Gala that happened about a week ago that was celebrating the new Met exhibition at the Costume Institute called Superfine Tailoring Black Style, which is all about Black dandyism and tailoring in the world of fashion. And if you guys want to introduce yourselves and tell me what you feel you're most excited for people to learn from our chat we just had.
Marquis Colden, artist and designer, and I got a better insight on dandyism. It's a new term, ideology that I'm getting into, and I feel like that I've been in that space for a while. But having this conversation and speaking on it, both John and Lam has gave me a deeper insight on dandyism, and just chatting with them has opened up the door to just kind of see where our heads at as far as this creative space and where we're going.
Yeah. What about you, Lam?
I'm Lamar, or Lamb, also known as Lambo's Vision. I just like Marquis said, learned more so what dandyism is and really what the culture is that we had towards like the show, the Met. But I really look forward to people just understanding and truly seeing I'm a creative and one of the greatest creatives I know alive. So yeah, definitely.
Own it. Well, we hope you enjoy what you're about to hear. So without any further ado, here we go.
Don't when they don't like pronunciate your name and stuff, to gently correct them, because that's your name. You put a lot into your name and everything that's behind it, and we need to, for the term, the current term is standing on. You can stand on a name. We invest a lot into our names, whether it be first and last name, etc. So whatever that is, that's what it is.
Yeah, no.
And almost exact words to him was, like, it's Marquis without the S, because that's what it is. That's why I invest in it. So.
No, that's understandable, because I definitely feel like that, especially because like my last name, me being a junior, it's just like I really just be like, all right, cool. I go by Lamb or like Lambo and keep it short. But then it's like I'm also who I am because of my people. Like their name carry weight as well. So it's like I want to just keep that legacy going for myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So because I don't think I'm gonna have a third.
Maybe not, but who is, when you say Marquis and everything that comes with it, Marquis Colden, the legacy and the branding is built behind that. So it's not Marquis, the same way like it's not what's one that they pronounce like from brands, they
Van.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes people get a little annoyed when you correct it, but
It's like, this is
that's
what
what
the
it
name
is.
is. And like that, I mean, I love that this is how we're starting out. So, because I just feel like this is like that ownership of identity and like really like standing by that, I think is a huge like thing that I think we're all kind of like coming into and really taking seriously. Like, more of this like, oh, you can just call me whatever. Or, like, no, this is like my identity. This is who I want to be seen as. And I would love for you to respect the fact that I am my own individual, creating my own individual life that you have the privilege of experiencing. But I think that's great that we were just talking about that, just because I feel like this really speaks to a lot of what I kind of wanted for all of us to talk about today on Express Yourself, RVA. I'm your host, John Cope, and I am here with two awesome Black individuals. Do you guys want to introduce yourself?
Marquis Colden, artist and designer. My brand is PLV, and I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here today.
Thanks, Marquis.
And I am Lamar Burrell Jr., Lambo's Vision, stylist, creative director, and just a freelance model. I'm excited to be here. I couldn't wait.
Yes, yes. No, I feel like I couldn't wait either, just because I have been waiting since last year to be able to talk about this more in depth, because we have just come off of the heels of the Met Gala, which was featuring Black Dandyism and well, one, Black Dandyism, but then two, tailoring. Like, what does it look like for us to acknowledge, tailoring within fashion? It's something that is new for the Met, and also really just speaking on Black male contribution to fashion. So this particular exhibit, Superfine Tailoring Black Fashion, I thought was super pivotal in this moment in time, especially as we think about our political climate, right?
Agreed. Definitely.
Definitely. So I just personally feel like, when it comes to, experiencing the Met Gala, right? The Met Gala is supposed to be a celebration of the Met exhibition. So, for me as a stylist, fashion historian, I'm very big on like paying attention to the exhibit. Like, what does the exhibit have to tell us right now about our current? It's holding up a mirror up to how we live our lives. Mm-hmm. So it's very important for me personally to dive into like the history of, what the exhibit is going into, and then also like what are the ways that Vogue is storytelling around this exhibit. So I think they do such a good job at like really expanding this for us who may not have an opportunity to go to the Met, the Costume Institute in New York, mm-hmm. right? So I think there's so many resources online to, kind of dive into the Met Gala, the Met exhibition. And me personally, I go to the Met's YouTube and I watch the mm-hmm. exhibition tours.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. And, if I'm not able to make it to the Met, in New York, like for me, those exhibition tours are really informative. So I'm really nerdy about it. So I'm curious for you guys, like, how do you guys approach looking into the Met Gala? Do you look into the Met Gala deep as I do? Do you mm-hmm. kind of like take in all the resources? I know I sent you guys a few resources before this interview. So if you want to speak on that, I'm curious. Like,
you take it first, Lon.
I really do, actually. I couldn't wait to talk about this because I really feel like, first of all, RP Andre, because this was really tailored to him, mm-hmm. Diana Ross, all of that, because they are fashion as well, like big fashion people. So it's like, then the creativity behind it was like amazing to me. I looked at it as much as I could. I was in a meeting at that time and I made sure that I was watching it still because, like I said, how you said, it's Black. So around being us, it was really pivotal how you said, and the fact that like our political views and everything has changed a lot of times, and we don't really get a lot of Met stuff for the culture. So it's like, this was really big for us. Like, it was a win. I feel like this is a win for a lot of people, and then the people that were there, they were amazing. I looked at certain designers. A lot of them were great, but a lot of them were, So I loved it, and I made sure that I watched every single second of it and heard interviews and everything. I was there, basically. I was there with them.
Yes.
It'll be nice to experience it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. So as far as the Met Gala in itself, it's something not necessarily new, but as I started to become more comfortable as a designer, that is a space I started to try to understand a little bit more. Mm-hmm. For me, it was kind of one of those things like the Oscars or those award ceremonies where it's always on TV at a certain amount of time, mm-hmm. and people make a big deal about it. And from a designer standpoint, you're looking at, oh, this particular designer is doing this is cool. I see where the theme is coming from and how they did X, Y, and Z. But over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, started to like really hone in on what is the Met Gala, mm-hmm. and what is it all about, and how does that relate to me, and what do I have to do as a designer to maybe be on that stage from a design standpoint. This current one, because it's so deeply rooted into what I am, a black designer, stepping into the space of a dandy, or just expressing myself more as a designer. I started to really look into like, what is this theme about, and how does it relate to me, and even to the point of just like checking out each designer that was a part of it and seeing like how do they inject their fashion language into it without it being like it is the thing, but I should be able to look at certain things and immediately say, oh, this is a piece by Grace Wells Bonner, or etc. Like, those are the things that I started to hone in on this particular Met Gala. But to answer the question, it's usually just I lived through the internet at one point in time, and now I have the resources to be able to go onto YouTube and listen to the interviews and take a step back and really research on like, how did the Met Gala come to be and what is its purpose? Mm-hmm. So the internet helps me a lot to be included with the Met Gala, because at this point it's we're watching from afar. Mm-hmm. But that's not the worst thing in the world. It's just what it is right now.
I know, and like I feel like, to your point about like the internet being kind of that catalyst for what it looks like for us to inject ourselves into this world, this fashion world. I relate to that heavily too. Like, I started my fashion blog. I was like, if I can't be a fashion editor at Vogue, I'm going to be my own damn fashion editor. Yes. And, I feel like, especially for us as Black men, right? Like, we're historically actively excluded from a lot of what the fashion world has had to offer the world, right? Mm-hmm. It's been very, exclusionary towards a certain type of people. And I feel this moment right now just feels like I feel a sense of elation in regards to being, paid our dues almost, right?
Yes.
Like, I feel there is a huge opportunity for us to really hone in on how have our Black ancestors really contributed to the industry as it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it just feels very pivotal for us to be able to acknowledge that. And then the Met Gala, with all these resources that we have, the Met, Vogue, and then, just all of the commentary around it, I think is building up this like incredible force of, conversation that I feel is almost healing,
Yes, yeah,
and like, me, I'm all about healing over here. So it's like, as I think about this as a Black man, I'm like, yes, I've been taking this time to really read the book by Monica Miller, who was the guest curator for this exhibit, which is pretty big. She's a woman of color, supporting this historically white institution, put together this exhibit, and really ensuring that the perspectives of Black and brown people are highlighted in their most respectful of ways. That was exciting. So I'm taking time to read that book, and also a few other books in tandem with this, just moment, right? So I picked up We Real Cool by Bell Hooks.
Okay.
Real Cool, right? Yeah. It's all about Black men and masculinity. And then Self-Care for Black Men by Jor-El Caraballo. Okay. And he also has another accompanying book called Meditations for Black Men. But it's been interesting to kind of read all of these pieces together in tandem with this particular moment that's happening, just because those books are articulating a lot of the same things that this exhibit is speaking to. Mm-hmm. And it feels like I have this opportunity to even know more about myself, which I feel has basically been stripped when we look at our educational institutions and how they have left out Black accomplishments. So it just feels almost like coming to home, especially for us who are interested in fashion. To be specifically spoken about in this arena feels special.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's definitely how I feel as well. Especially like how we said the internet is pushing like so much out there that like it's a positive thing for us, like the culture for us to be at the Met and have our own like curated segment for us, just literally us. And so like the internet helped me really just like you said feel like home because a lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people cared about it this time, and it's like, why y'all care about it? And so I was like, let me look into it and deeper into seeing what people were saying, people were thinking about it, and what's the next step? Because I mean, this is the first one, but are we ever going to get more? Like, how does the people reacting to it? Are we going to push the narrative to be like, all right, we should get more of these, or tailored around something else, something like
what's the next space to explore?
So
What are our
yeah,
stories. Like, I feel like right now our stories are being paid attention to,
Yes.
which feels great.
Great.
And like
they're being told.
yeah. Like, would you guys? Okay, so before we go, I'm very curious because Marquis, you just had, well, not just had. This was back in March when you released your first solo fashion show here in Richmond, Virginia, which I'm really excited to get into. But before we even get into that, I'm very curious. Did you guys even know what a dandy is, or do you guys like classify yourselves as a dandy now?
I think that I'm starting to really. I'm stepping into that space from the just reading, hearing the name come up and the definition from, we'll just say like an internet standpoint. I'm starting to see how that plays into like my everyday style. But based off of what I'm reading and understanding, that I would say yes. I dress to express myself. And maybe my original idea of what a dandy was a little bit different because I ran into a dandy through the laws of attraction and being a dandy and how that works from a attraction standpoint. And you know, it's still the same thing where a dandy uses their personality or their aura around them to attract. And that's what my understanding was at one point in time. Then as I started to listen to Dapper Dan talk about it and some of the other people that are a part of the exhibit or had conversation about the exhibit, I feel like that I've been in that space as a dandy a lot, but maybe it doesn't look the same as like a bright suit or what we used to call, I have a younger brother who is a definition of a dandy. But we used to call him the peacock because when he step in the room, you know he's there, you know. But as a person like we'll say like in like the hip hop space, like that whole ideology. And even as being a black male and from a urban space, our whole character is dandy. We gotta have the latest clothes, a flashy chain, jewelry, the nicest car. That is all a part of that persona. We're getting the flashy things for some type of attention or a way to express ourselves through something that's like not something that, you know, once we're stripped down to the bare us, these things are added to us to add a extra pop, you know.
Yeah.
And the more I heard Dapper Dan talk about it, I was like, well, the entire bravado of hip hop and the culture that we're in is dandyism, you know. His whole space of logomania and all that stuff. I know I grew up being attracted to fashion through. That's a part of being a dandy. So without stretching the question too long, yeah, I do feel like that I'm a part of that space now. What it looks like to me at this point in time is a little bit different because my taste has shifted from something that's a little out of that urban space, you know. And I think that everything is kind of shifting from there where like streetwear doesn't look the same, etc. But
It's just, I think maybe to that point, it's like we just are finding ourselves in other spaces other than just being in urban spaces. And
Yes.
like with us, like, attaining, social milestones, if you will, that, don't look like what we stereotypically have been associated with.
yeah,
It's interesting for, I think, us to really embrace the fact that we don't only just reside in urban spaces.
and I was glad to hear those stories start to be told. Like I think that was the most exciting part about the Met Gala and the story of Dandyism, or the lure behind it was, this is not a urban story, and that's the space that we always put in. This is such a elevated space that represents us in a whole different light that is not usually shown on us.
Various angles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I agree with both of y'all, especially like how the styles and everything has just changed. I would say more so yes now, but like he said, like Marquis said, styling has changed for me. And as a stylist, I like to go about changing my style every time I like get up and dress. So it's like with the dandyism, it's really, I started out in high school really trying to really get into that because of the fact that I knew that I had to, have a suit or something like that. I was homecoming a lot. So I always had to look the part of like, all right, he is a homecoming prince or a homecoming like to be king, and never won it. But it was like, I was always on the ballot and stuff. So I always try to really look more in depth into getting, like how you said, the flashy cars and stuff like that. Like, a couple people was riding around with Beamers at 16 and stuff like that. They wanted that because you'll see movies like Paid in Full, stuff like that. That was really pinnacle to a lot of like me when I was growing up, like Cortezes and all that. And then I changed my style to like, all right, I need some dress shoes, something like that, or just something that pops, and that's why I would say like my style now is like I would wear something that's like statement piece, like a glasses or shades or something like that, or just something wrist like on my bracelet and make it pop. Yeah, so definitely would agree on both parts of both y'all saying. I love the fact that how you said the story was definitely told, and you could tell through those stories like Dapper Dan and everything, they actually really got their stories like appealing. And for that, it was just big to me because like you said, we're black men, and the fact that our stories have been like really minuscule in this industry is like, all right, cool, we getting somewhere now. Yeah,
because there's so much more to us than just that. That's a very small space.
Just like Pharrell, his story is huge. Yep. And he was a part of that. So it's like A$AP Rocky's story is huge. So it's like a lot of people that was a part of that, they have something connected, like fashion, music, it all ties into everything, especially because fashion is history and history repeats itself anyways. So we're going to always come back into it. It was just, we got to show it and got to keep telling that story.
Yeah, no. And I mean, do you have any particular, do you have a figure that you always looked up to yourself?
Not really. I couldn't think off the top of my head right now. No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Besides, like, of course, Dapper Dan and stuff like that, but it's really just not that much. I always just wake up and it was just like, all right, I gotta find my own style into this, and then see who's
very
A$AP Rocky approach.
I think ironically it all led to Dapper Dan and Harlem in so many ways, and that's before I could really even know who Dapper Dan was. I was always interested in his work because you would see it on some of the people in the neighborhood, and even once we had access to like more internet and just seeing like the rappers and stuff, I would always wonder like, where would these things come from? Because you don't see them in a magazine. Eventually I learned he was tailoring, making stuff out of like the bootleg material. But at that point, I thought that's what Gucci looked like. That's what Louis Vuitton MCM looked like. So that was one of the first. His work in general was what first got me like attracted to fashion, and then I started running into the work of Yves Saint Laurent, and it was very different than what I was used to seeing out here. It was more tailored type of style that, you know, initially I didn't have access to, but I wanted to be in that space so bad that I found my way to. So,
well, I think to your point, I mean, I think it's just interesting to, you know, I mean, I never grew up in fashion myself, you know. I grew up, I mean, my entry into fashion personally was America's Next Top Model. Like when I saw America's Next Top Model, I was like,
Yes.
oh, I can apply my love for photography. I was into photography back in the day, mostly, but then I was like, how do I make money as a photographer? And then I found fashion. I was like, oh, I love playing with my sisters.
Yeah, and
dolls.
they all together. Yeah, they
Why
come
don't I,
together.
like,
Yeah.
just do this? Yeah, I should do this. But it's interesting to look at the what is available as fashion history, quote, quote, right? And then for me, as someone who is a historian, and like something that's been really interesting for me to, you know, recognize and to heal, and to also like deal with a bit of rage, because I feel like, you know, there's a lot of information like from, you know, this exhibit in particular that I haven't even gone to the exhibit, and I've learned so much about Black male accomplishment in a lot of other ways, more than fashion, but through the figures that wear those fashions, like what they did for history, what they did for culture, what they did for people. Like, it's incredible for me right now to recognize, like, I know all this fashion history, but what perspective am I learning about fashion history? Because for me, like Dapper Dan, like that was someone that I've known a lot about before, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with the work of Misa Hilton, and like, you know, the fact that, you know, she was dressing Mary J. Blige, Missy Elliott, and when we look at hip hop fashion of now, of like what we're all at, 90s fashion, like
June
Ambrose,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And like,
Andre Leon Talley for me.
yeah,
For sure, yeah.
And like, you know, it's interesting that these people haven't been, you know, figures that for me, you know, if I was to go to like VCU fashion, like, are they learning about these figures that like made like huge contributions to fashion, or, you know, and maybe they are. I don't go to VCU fashion, but I mean, at the same token, it just is interesting for me to think like, how much more can our students and like the fashion world realize like the accomplishments of Black and brown people in this industry, and how come I don't know about all of these accomplishments? Like that's the rage that I feel I'm personally like having to really put out the fire for right now, just in the sense of like, you know, man, I am a Black person and I don't know all this information about being Black.
That's how I feel.
And like what we've done
Especially as a
in this
stylist.
world.
Yeah, especially as a stylist. I
agree with
feel
that.
Yeah, and creative as a whole.
Yeah.
I relate to the rage, because why isn't this information available? But also the blueprint is pulled from us a lot.
Right.
A lot of the cues, the styling, the culture that is embedded in a lot of design comes from us in some type of space. And seeing the exhibit, or people talk about the exhibit and doing some research, it's like the industry pulls from us, but also kind of like say like, ew, that's like
To go over there.
Yeah, go over there until they feel like it's susceptible for them to pull reference and then make it its own thing. And that's something that I've just started to notice a lot. Just like, wow, you reference us culturally and design-wise a lot, but not in a way that gives us the credit that we deserve. and
pays us.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially like for history, yeah. Because like if we're repeating history, we're also creating a new history within the space because we see the history trying to come back, and it's like it's not getting washed down, but it's getting washed down.
Well, I think what we're seeing is like an interesting shift in attitude because I feel like, you know, when we look at Black designers of yesterday, like, you know, if you think about like Ann Lowe, who was the designer of Jackie Kennedy's wedding dress and who never really properly got the amount of attention that she deserved as a designer for styling arguably the most stylish woman of the time. And, you know, there was a certain modesty that I think our that generation had about like doing work and just letting the work speak for itself. But then, like, to our point, what we were talking about earlier about like identity and owning up to that identity and defending it, I think right now our generation is very much like, no, we are going to collect our flowers that we deserve, that we worked hard for. And I don't think that, like, when we think about anyone who's ever been, you know, kind of, you know, celebrated, you know, really when I'm thinking about like history in general, Black and brown people, right? Like, we've had to acknowledge to dominant culture that this is what we did. So it's like, it's interesting to, you know, have to continue to do that. And like, I just feel like this particular exhibit gives us almost a leg up in terms of like having the credibility to speak to the greatness that we always have been. So it just, yeah. But I feel like, and I'm very curious too, like, you know, now that we have this particular moment in time, everything that I do, I feel is very, it feels very potent. You know, I've been using, potent is one of my favorite words right now, just because it feels like, you know, we have it. This is an interesting space in time for us to really tell our stories. So, you know, and like for people feel interested, people want to give their attention to it. So like you just had, Marquis had your fashion show for PLV in March. And, you know, it was a very, I mean, personally, I was so proud of you just because, you know, me and you have been working a lot together throughout the past, more than 10 years, honestly. Like, I think we were thinking about it a few weeks ago and like, you know, where did we even meet each other? It's great that we kind of really don't remember, but
it's been a while, and you know, I start not even to go down that road. You know, you think of a moment like, was this the first moment that I met John? And you're like, no. And so it's great to see us. Yeah, exactly. It's been a while, but just a great journey, and just to see the both of us evolve from the point that we met to all the things that we've accomplished, both in the industry and also just with ourselves. I feel like that, especially right now, the both of us are very like unapologetically us. And you know, that's one way to give you your flowers. That's the number one thing when I describe you is like John. He's unapologetically John. When you see him, you know it's him, and I love it. So, yeah. I'm glad that.
Doesn't it like make you think? Like you have to like, oh wow, we've like done so much together, and like I mean, so much in the sense like, you know, we've been supporting each other brands. Like, you know, me and my business partner Sharif, like you've always been a huge supporter of Victim 15, and you know what we're doing, and like, you know, we've gone to Miami together. We've traveled.
Miami, on my very first New York Fashion Week show, you were there.
Oh yeah,
and,
that's right.
And you was there because I was working with Clyde.
Yeah,
that's how we ended up meeting, was through Clyde.
Nice.
And you know, just a little tidbit that we're actually working on a project.
You and Lamb met.
That's what we met through.
Gotcha.
Yeah, me and Lamb met through Clyde on another like virtual runway.
For those of you who don't know, Clyde Wright is an amazing Black designer as well from Richmond. Shout out to Clyde. He's also part of our design team on Victim 15, so love him.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
I love Clyde.
we're working on a project due to release sometime next year. So
Nice.
So that's a little
Ooh, a little
teaser.
scoop.
Yeah, a little scoop. So we are working on something.
Heard it first on Express Yourself, RVA.
Back working again.
I've always
on
wanted
a
to say
project. These are the moments that you get to do that. And now that I'm in the space, interviewing more, being able to like talk about what I have going on, these are my moments to say like, yeah, me and Clyde are working on a project.
Yeah,
I
talk
got
that stuff.
this and this going on, and
Own it.
you know, you take those sound bites and you throw them on the internet, and the internet goes wild like, oh, glad Mark, he working again for this, but
Yeah. But I think like, okay, so if we go back to that fashion show that you did, that Lamb was head stylist
Yeah.
for,
Well,
what'd you say? Yeah.
I would say Braxton Johnson.
yeah, shout out
Braxton. Shout out
Okay.
Braxton.
Okay.
For sure.
Yes, please. What was your
I
role?
wanted to say that Braxton did an amazing job before I came up on the team and assisted as well. But yes, definitely helped. Had a helping hand in it. Yes.
To
Nice.
speak on Braxton, he's been working now in his own space outside of RVA. He's amazing. So definitely big shout out to Braxton. And for context, he was the original lead designer, net designer, but stylist. And mainly we've been talking about this opportunity for a while before I met Lamb. And when the opportunity came, I reached out to him first, but unfortunately, his mom had passed away during the process of the show. And he let me know, like, I'm unable to continue because I'm not in the right mental space, and I want to give you the best version of myself for this. Lamb had been partnering with Braxton, but he wasn't lead because, you know, he was new in the space, and I wanted him to learn from Braxton because of just what Braxton was doing. And I trusted in Lamb's, no pun intended, Lamb's vision. So I called him and I said, look, Braxton is out. So I need you to step into this space and kill it. And that's what he did. He made sure everything looked exceedingly above what I expected. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I appreciate you for that. You the GOAT, bro. I'm trying to tell you.
Way to go, man.
It was awesome. No, just because I mean, I arrived at the show and there was already like this huge line, you know, and I'm not the best with time, so I tend to get to places pretty late, no matter where it is. So I was very surprised when I got there, and I was like, oh, there's like a whole, like everyone is still there, and it was great to see like how many people were there to support you and there to be there for the show, excited for the show, you know, and
Exceeded expectations.
it felt like a moment, and it felt very beautiful to see, like, you know, like
History being made for real.
history being made. Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
and like, I mean, it is just because, like, when you think about, like, I mean, personally, I'm always looking at like what is fashion and expression looking like in RVA, and like you're a part of that, like in the sense that like this show, like people were looking out for it, and it just for me highlighted, you know, what it looks like for people to respect and to be interested in the story of a black man, right? And like, because that's essentially what you provided through this particular show. So do you want to talk about like what the show was representing and like what you were trying to say with it?
So the show was representing a space and time in my life that I would say that I survived through. You know, I'm from an urban space, and when I first started in fashion, I didn't really recognize, I was in like an in-between space where I didn't really recognize anything from the urban space or in the fashion space that really connected or balanced out in both ways. Either it was to this or to that. And I was humble when I just went through the process of just participating, you know, getting my ideas out the best that I could. But I reached a point where I felt that I had a story to tell, and the spaces I was in wasn't given that opportunity. So I got comfortable and started really pitching the idea. Just saying, hey, I got an idea. Hey, I want to do my own runway show. And eventually, I ran into the right people to be able to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to trust myself in that process too, because even when I first agreed to let the production team that helped, which would be Conscious Creation, spearheaded by Hannah Grace, they reached out and said they wanted to help designers do their own shows, and I've been talking to Hannah out in Miami about it a few times, and she reached out and we went from there. Then later on, 24 creators jumped on as far as the media partner, and I was in a space with a lot going on, but I trusted God and said, all right, they're reaching out to you, so that means it's time to do this. Mm-hmm. And I persevered through all the background struggles that I had to go through and made it happen. But
because this was like a really high quality show. Like I feel like it felt. I've been to many shows, right? And I've been to many shows that I felt like were amazing, and I've been to many shows that I felt like were
like a show.
I could have did something better with my time, but it was great to come out. It felt organized in the sense of like, okay, like we're gonna get you guys seated, and then we're gonna start, and then this is like everything that happens. Sometimes shows don't happen like that, or they start real late. It was just really nice to feel like you enveloped us in an environment. Like the set production was really like cohesive and, very, it felt like there was intentionality in everything that was put into it. And then I loved also how, when the show started, there was a little bit of a, acting narrative to really set the scene, but then also like it just felt like real, because I know that you were kind of intent on like finding real models and like
yes.
people who look like the people that you know in your life, and asserting them as models.
Yes.
Really, I think the whole industry right now is in this interesting space where we get to reconsider what a model is, and really give power to all types of people and their ability to represent who they are, and thusly who a population of people may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, definitely, I agree.
Right. So it was just really nice to see all those like kind of intentional moments being put into the show, and then for you to have a team, right, that like supported you putting all that together. Like, it's so nice to hear how these companies like band together to like support you and like getting content for it, and like having photos. Like you have some great photos. Julie Adams, we love you.
Yes,
you can see
thank
those
you.
photos.
Julie,
Yeah, killed it.
We'll see more of those. You can see those photos on this particular post. Once it's up on, once it's live,
Yes.
you'll be able to see the whole collection on this post on rvamag.com.
Yes.
But were you about to say something?
Oh, just to speak to that is number one, it was very important for content. Everything is content based, and I know when I did the New York show, they gave me a very high quality video and pictures and things like that, and that was back in 2016, and I've been showing that to people across the East Coast since then. So that was really my only way of saying that this moment happened. So it was very, very important to get the content and for it to be high quality. And from there, I learned a valuable lesson of what a team could do, really working with Sharif. And I was doing a lot of work behind the scenes with him and his brand. And, I'm a very observant by nature person. And I'm just watching and seeing how things go, and I'm like, well, if you can put together a team, the possibilities are endless. And maybe at that moment I didn't realize like how far I can push an idea. And I really would say that the last show was really me just kind of peeking in the door a little bit and saying, oh, I can do something in here. But it also was my moment to say, okay, in order to execute at this level, you need a team. And I know I've pitched that idea to a couple of people, but I felt like that the idea might have been a little more radical than what people were really ready for at that point. Because the way I explained the idea was very dark, because the show comes from a dark place. And I tell a lot of people that some ideas fell by the wayside because maybe it might have been a little too dark for that space right now. But yeah, I think that because of the pitch was a little dark, some were like, good idea, but I don't know. And the people that locked in on it, they said, wow, let's do it. And once I got the okay from them, I was like, okay, this is the community that's gonna put this thing together. And I think the last thing, was just like the line outside. Part of it was making sure that structure didn't fall on anybody. So that it was a brick wall that was built like a project house that I built in my mom's backyard, painted it in my apartment in every single room. It's like maybe 8 large 4-foot pieces. We had to make sure it didn't fall on anybody. So that took some time to make sure that it was safe, because inside the building that day was the very first time all the pieces stood up together. And then the influx of people that came at the same time was like, oh wow, you know, so crowd.
Did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did it. You like put together a whole set and everything.
Yeah. I remember people coming backstage and saying, there's a line outside. And I was like, for real? It was like, yeah, look at this video. And I'm like, it's a line down the street.
Yeah.
And the moment that it, I felt like it didn't feel real until the structure stood up. And I looked and I was like, oh, F, this is about to happen. So.
How did it feel for you, Lamb, to be a part of all of that and to be kind of like thrown in the way that you were?
It was amazing. Like I said, this is my GOAT. Nobody's better than him in my eyes. So yeah, so I appreciate him for sure. Because we worked a couple times like on shows as a whole, but like for him to have his first solo and me just being a part of it and like styling as a whole, it just felt great, because like I said, that felt like an accomplishment for me. So like that felt like a win for both of us, but mostly him. And so just to be there and just be in that space, like it was unreal. Like how you said, it felt like unreal. Like all jokes aside, I was like, man, this is like crazy. I had tears in my eyes by the end of the night, because it was like, all right, yeah, like this is really actually what we know, and this is not like something new to us. Like of course it was new to like us, but it was like, this is something easy for us. Like we can keep doing this over and over. This is something we should have been done, because we've already been in this space.
We are fashion professionals.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, it was just like he said, just put the idea out, and all he had to do was do that. And once he did that, that's what the history was made. Like the great history. I'm gonna go with great history. Black history. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, something that comes to mind for me is like, when I'm designing and working with Sharif, right, there's a particular magic that I personally feel when it, like, and, it also made me think about like kind of any moment I get a chance to work with other Black men, other people that look like me. There's a particular charge I feel when you're working with someone who wants to tell the same story that you are, or has like a certain, or shares a certain background of your story, and can help you to really like piece things together, like that creation process that happens with someone that looks like you. Like I just feel like there is always that it's magical for me to feel that I can be a creative in this space and work with someone else that, you know, comes from my same perspectives, living in this country, living in this world. And, you know, there is a fire behind us that's like, yeah, we know that we're going to show something amazing. And I don't know, there is just, it's beautiful to me, or I'm curious to know if you guys feel the same way when it comes to working together, you know, like that creation process of like working with other people of color. Like there is something undeniable about the result of doing it with others who share your background.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, cause like, well, it's actually funny that you say that, because for him, Marquis, he doesn't tell me a lot of stuff. He doesn't tell a lot of stories until it's done. Like you don't see it, like his work, until it's actually out there. And so, like I said, it was amazing to be a part of the storytelling, because he'll just tell me, "Hey man, I got some fire for you. Just wait till you see it." And I'm like, "All right, I'm already knowing." But it's also, I want to have that same mindset that, all right, this is going to be a surprising thing to me. I don't like surprises, but when he has a surprise, it's always nice to have and see. So it's like, it was really great to just be in that space, like I said. And then it helped me venture off with a lot of the black creatives that was also there. Like I said, I met you and everything. So it was definitely just able to really just nurture the fact that he had everything going on. And then I seen the culmination between all of us. So it was like, as that was going on, just taking heed and just really just like learning the whole process and just keep going and saying, all right, this is my calling, and this is more of the God's given talent for all of us that's around.
It feels very organic. Like I don't have to like hold any part of myself back in that space, and I don't have to over explain the idea that that comes from that space. You know, immediately when I tell them, this is what I'm trying to do, this is what this looks like, I get the immediate feedback without having to research or like wonder what I'm talking about. And I experienced like that with the show, just telling it to certain creatives in the space, especially like the ones from the same space, the same ideology. They immediately knew what I was talking about, what it looked like, and how to step in that space, and it helped create it, you know, and that was refreshing. And then when you run into people from that same like ideology, the feedback is different too, because several times I've gotten, you are really telling a story that is not really told in this space, and if it's told, it's not as tasteful as this. You know, this particular story may not have been a pretty story, but it's art, so it's not going to always be pretty. It's going to be felt.
Creative direction.
It sounds like it affirms your lived experience.
Exactly.
Like, and that's, I think, the thing that this moment is really doing. It's really affirming our lived experience. It's affirming our ancestors' lived experience, and the fact that, you know, we are a people that, you know, come from resilient people before us, and we have this opportunity to carry that forward. And you know, I feel it really speaks a lot to our nation, kind of like, you know, what it looks like for our nation to take that time to acknowledge the beauty that Black men have provided the world through, various dandies, through various, iterations of expression, and really challenging that through like just being in the world. Like our Black bodies just coming into the world are political, like, which is a crazy notion. But, it's something that, we definitely have to own. And, I feel very powerful owning that personally.
Yes.
And being able to be unapologetic about speaking about it.
Yes.
And then speaking about the inequality that has always been there. But for the most part, I definitely feel, this was, I'm so grateful to be able to speak with you guys about this. I've taken a lot of time to really like think a lot about how we would, speak about how pivotal this moment is. I don't know if there's anything in particular that you guys want to say as a last word about this, exhibit, or, what it looks like for you guys to continue to express yourselves and to develop your creative capacity.
I think that is pivotal for us to tell these stories because they're like our folklore. Being able to speak on the designers before, the designers present, the figures in that space before and present, gives us characters not really to mimic but to build off of.
Exactly.
That's not negative.
Yeah.
I can be a Dapper Dan. I can be a Wells Bonner. I can be any of these people in this space that came before me, and I have something to reference back or reference from, or just charge me up to know that, hey, it was somebody maybe in this space. It might not look exactly like what I'm doing now, but it's something that can be accomplished. So our stories are our folklore, our blueprint. So to be able to tell it well, to document it, is essential for us to grow in this space.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And I agree with that as well. From my standpoint of that, I really just like I said, used it as a learning process. Just seeing the styling, everything, it was just amazing to see, especially because obviously we know not every designer, and that was a part of the Met, is Black or brown or any of color. Let's just say that. And so for them to actually go into that theme and still put out something good or great, it was like, all right, we understand that, like, they trying to understand the story as well as much as us, we're trying to tell it. And so for that, it just felt really great to see, because we had the people of color in those designers' clothes, regardless of the fact that it's tailored around us. So just like I said earlier, Pharrell, ASAP, everybody else that had a part, like their hand in part of it, just the people that passed away before they even see this history. Like I said, it's history, Black history to me. Yeah, so it was just amazing to see. And like I said, I'm waiting to see the next step, or who is going to do something different. Instead of the Met, we have something tailored around Black people just as every year. Just like we can start our own stuff. So that's something I look into as well. Me being
more on our history.
Yeah, being a creative, more so like getting out there. Like, we have creative spaces, the community spaces where we have the tailored around Black people, especially in Richmond. So it's like, if we can get that out more, we're able to tell that story and get out to New York, LA, the Atlantas, and anywhere, for real. I don't even care. Like, we can make another state a big state as long as you got a community around that. And that's what I see the Met was. Like, the Met had a community based of people actually that was people of color and putting their time into it. And it was like, all right, like the designers, like even the costume designers, stuff like that. So it's like, when you look in all of that, it's just really good to see, because we take apart from everything. Like I said, entertainment as a whole, and entertainment really showcased that it's new styles every day, every year. Even though the history, like I said, history repeated, but we're creating it, and that's all that matters to me, is like that history is being showed as well, because it was I loved it. I loved it. Like I really loved this show. Like I really loved this year. And I usually watch it like every year, but this year was like really. I was excited. I was on. Like I said, had a meeting for my show. And I was like, they're elder people, but I was showing them. I was like, hey, look at these outfits. You know, these outfits are like either cool or great or just all right.
And that just goes to show, like, you know, what it looks like for, industry to open itself up to diversity.
Yes, exactly.
Like now there's a whole new,
the immense energy.
One, the product placement of the Met Gala, like, let's just acknowledge that. So then, like, two, when you get a whole new demographic of people who are now interested because they have finally been let in, like, that opens up a whole new opportunity for brands to be seen. Like, hello, economics. But then also, like, it just opens up a whole new moment for the world to just come together even more and, like, you know, see how we're all doing kind of awesome things.
Yeah, creative.
We can all be a part of this
Life
in
is
an
art.
inclusive way.
Yes.
So it just feels really good to like be able to talk about this. And I know down the pipeline, Lamb, you have something coming up for us.
Yeah.
You want to tell us more about that?
So May 18th, this Sunday coming up, actually, I'm throwing my second show for my grandma's church, her cathedral. I would say this is my first like actual major one, especially because I have more of a team. Shout out to Marquis because he helped me understand having a team. This independent street, like the independent stuff is cool, but for what you want, the culmination and the greatness of it, you have to have a team. You have to have that village behind you. And so basically, this is a tribe of Dan. I don't know if a lot of people, you know, read the Bible, but it's about Daniel's tribe. And my grandma's, her group of people are part of one group of the Dan. And we're basically just showcasing courage, strength, just everything, like mostly try to do black at the most, as best we can, but definitely just, like I said, just everything that goes into just the energy around life as a whole. Us learning it, us like going about life, getting up and going, thanking God, just like praying, everything. So May 18th, got 4 designers. Marquis is one of them, PLV. So it would be the designers, PLV, New Bodies Industries, The Agency, and Yanni Boutique. I can't wait.
Nice.
I'm very excited. Definitely a process.
Fashion shows is no joke,
And
man.
then me being young and wanting to do a lot and still learn, as well as like input, like what I learned, it's really hard to just go ahead and be like, all right, this is what I learned, and go ahead and do this. But having a team also makes it easier for me to say what I just learned, I could put out right then and there. But you don't want to put out too much creativity and showcase everything, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'm giving off a little taste of, you know what I'm saying, what's more to come.
Yeah.
It's definitely opened the opportunities for a lot of people to want to work with me as creatives and do my own show for them. Mm-hmm. So I have a couple more shows that's in the talks right now. Nice. But yeah, definitely just styling and creativity, just me being a creative director and just hosting this as a whole is just amazing. And then the fact that it's like I have a team, but it's not really a huge team, and I'm working with just like we say elder, like I said, the elder people. It's really understanding what it takes, and it's building structure.
Yeah.
And building character for sure. Yeah. I see how, but I don't see how a lot of people do it. It's like a lot every day. So it's like, it's really great to just see come apart, and I can't wait to just like come in. I feel like it's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll have information about that in my podcast post on rvamag.com. I just want to thank you guys for sitting down to chat with me on Express Yourself RVA.
It was amazing. Thank you.
It was great. It was great.
Very
great
good.
To be a part of it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And to even talk about fashion or just life as a whole with other creatives is always going to be, you're always going to give me
Healing.
Yeah, you're going to always give me somewhere.
Cathartic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm always be there. You don't get that a lot, especially because, like I said, me being young, I want to be an introvert and extrovert at the same time. So getting out is really what it takes. You got to be consistent in this. And
Because the kids stay on the internet.
yeah.
And the internet is not real.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I hate it, but so you got to go out here and be consistent and actually.
Kid, though, but like,
No, I understand.
You know, but like, just we gotta
Do the
use
walk.
those spaces. Man.
And utilize it, yeah, for
Get
sure.
outside, smell the flowers, and realize
Touch
that
grass, as they say.
We're not in the
See
matrix.
rainbows.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, guys. And I hope everyone that has been listening enjoyed that. Please comment and let us know what you think. This is Express Yourself, and I'm John Cope. We'll talk to you later. And before I let you go, I have one more event I'd like to share that those of us in Richmond can attend between now and January 26th of 2026. And that is a new exhibition at the Valentine entitled Fancy Costumes, Characters, and the Richmond Mask. So yours truly actually has a garment that is featured in this exhibition. So I offer this as another exhibit to add to your calendars to attend. And yeah, I am very excited to be included in this exhibit. It feels very synchronous for this exhibit to be premiering at basically the same time as the Met exhibit. So take time to visit this exhibit if you get a chance.